Hey guys, Baron here with Castles, and up today we are going to torture test this Ruger RXM.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
This is a new gun. I have about 300-ish or so rounds through it at this point. It has been cleaned, lubricated, ready to go. Oh, I've got 5 rounds loaded just to show you that this thing does work. Hopefully we don't have a malfunction. Here we go. Six rounds, I can't count. Anyway, with that, all these tests will be empty chamber, loaded mag with 5 rounds. That way there's no possibility it can discharge on us until we're ready to shoot it. So with that, let's get to the tests. All right, empty chamber, 5 rounds in the mag. We're just gonna do some basic drop tests.
I believe I can fly.
And just for fun, let's throw it on top of the barn and then give it a go. All right, she's a little dirty. Doesn't appear to be broken. No obstructions in the barrel. Let's give it one more check and then see what happens. Like a charm. Let's do something better. I'm going to bury this, and up front I will tell you, having done these in the past on other firearms to include Glocks, a lot of times you do kind of have to batter the gun a little bit once it's been in wet soil, but we'll see how it goes. So here we go. You never know.
We'll get it out nicely.
All right, I am going to pull the mag and just ensure that there's no obstructions in the barrel. Barrel's clear. We'll get some more dirt on it just to make you guys happy, so you don't say that I skewed the test. I'll just be mindful of the muzzle. There we go. All right. Nothing in the muzzle. Here we go. Locked right open. That actually did better than I thought it would. A lot of times you'll get some ingress up and behind the trigger. Doesn't want to shoot. Not really the fault of the gun, but this thing plowed right through it. Awesome. Let's go even better. Haven't had to dunk it in water yet. I'm actually fairly impressed. we are chambered. Here we go. That is full of crap. Alright guys, so it's getting pretty dirty, and I kind of want to see how the finish is holding up, because that's my number one concern with this, other than those 3 malfunctions I had, is how well will the finish last compared to, say, a Glock. So we're going to clean it up just a little bit. One more for good measure. All right, here we go. Keep the rope out of the way of the trigger. I definitely should have had my iPro on for that, but gun worked fine. I'm fine. From what I can tell, the finish looks decent, despite everything it's been through, actually. So we've got one more test. All right, guys, last test. Saw how sluggish that was. We'll see if that plays out. Since it's freezing, I'm going to put this in a bowl of water overnight. It's supposed to get down into the single digits. Let it freeze solid, and then we're going to thaw it out. I've got rocks on the bottom. That way it gets ice on both sides of the handgun. And I imagine most of this crap will settle on it or in it anyway. So here we go. We're just going to go ahead and give it a little shake. Drop it down. And notice that the magazine was empty. I'm not going to put the loaded mag in here because of what I'm going to do to unthaw this. I don't want live rounds in the gun. But anyway, we'll check back in the morning, and you guys are going to see something freaking awesome and borderline really stupid too. So here's our Ruger RXM, and it is completely encased. There's the magazine well there. Got a little bit of the barrel. It is still in the ice though. That's probably the weakest part of it. All right, there it is. All right, buddy, let's get this thing out of the ice. Hit it. Make sure you're hitting it. Well, I think we're going to need to do something a little more extreme to thaw this out. What do you think, Bowen? Yeah. All right, guys, so we're going to use some 12 gauge number 4 buck. This might be too much for it. I may be going a little too far, but you know, if it damages the frame, at least you can replace it, right? Without doing more paperwork. Ooh! Let's go check it out. Well, it appears intact. So I'm not going to do it again with the shotgun since the slide's sticking out. But that did appear to be effective. Let's go ahead and just knock it a little bit on the gravel. There we go. And just froze solid. So remember, this is totally unloaded. I'm going to go ahead and get some hot water and thaw this out the rest of the way. We'll, just for good measures, drop it a couple more times. Try to get some of this ice off of it. But, I mean, it's froze up solid. So, I'll get some hot water, we'll thaw it out, and we'll run some rounds through it. All right, guys, frozen RXM. Just going to go ahead and toss it in some warm water here. Let it kind of thaw for a minute. Look at that. Democrats' worst nightmare, untraceable bullets. Scary. Does have some debris in here, which we're just going to leave. Alright, so I've got a fresh magazine. We're going to go ahead and take the gun out. I am going to rack it a couple of times. What happens with striker fired guns is water will build up in this firing pin channel and it won't let the firing pin strike the primer hard enough to ignite. This is common on all striker fired pistols, so we're just going to alleviate that by taking it out, shaking it off, and then firing 5 rounds. Another PNAG that the gun came with. Would you look at that?
Just look at that.
Locked open. We've had no malfunctions thus far. Alright guys, final magazine for this video. 15 rounds, 124 grain full metal jacket. Let's see how it goes. You saw how sluggish that was. I have not added oil at any time during this video. Locked open. So while not a high round count torture test by any means, we can definitely call this an abuse test for sure. We're going to go to the tailgate. I'll take it apart and give you guys my final thoughts and opinions on the RXM as far as durability is concerned. Alright guys, final thoughts. Let's just take a look at the finish. This is prior to any oil. Nothing's broken. Nothing's really gouged that I can tell. And the gun is in good shape, really, despite everything it's been through. Let's take a look at the inside. Still wet from being thawed out, but it ran like a champ. So my final thoughts on the RXM after this test is that it did outstandingly well. This thing took abuse like a champ. The purpose of this video is not to destroy a gun, not to bash a gun. For me, it's to see, is it really as durable as a Glock 19? It's low risk for me. I could always send it back to Ruger. If the frame breaks, I can replace the frame for 40 bucks. Like, it's not a big deal, really, if you think about it. And it's a soulless gun. I really don't care what the finish looks like. I can always spray paint it. To me, it's just a new polymer gun. Not a big deal. But the test value here is big for me. What it does show is the gun is very capable of handling abuse, neglect, harsh conditions and environments. And as far as performance goes on this, I mean, it kept right up with a Glock. I have done this kind of stuff on Glocks with another channel several years ago. Very similar testing conditions. This one's actually a little more extreme, but it kept right up, did just as good. Now, high round count, that's yet to be determined. Now, what we can say is that the Glock has a proven track record. The Glock has been around a lot longer. There's a lot more data points on the Glock. And this gun just can't compete with that yet. It's going to take a few years. This gives us some feedback. This gives us some data points to actually make an educated opinion instead of just sounding like a narrow-minded, Glock guy who just argues with people on the internet because that's your social life. So I'm impressed. The data points are out there. You can't say that it's not as good as the Glock from at least a abuse standpoint. High round count might be another thing though, but we'll talk about that in the next video. Here in this next week, I'll be releasing a first impressions video on this. If you want to see the finish after this test when it's been cleaned up, tune into that. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you were entertained. And as far as I'm concerned, the Ruger RXM definitely holds its own weight.